Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the launch of the Magna Carta Observatory's essay competition for 2025. With me on this launch program, I have Helena Leo, who is from Brazil and was one of the winners of the 2024 competition. And I have Peter Kwazikoji, who is a member of the Magna Carta Governing Council, but his day job, he's the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union. And welcome to both of them. Just one or two words of housekeeping. We are recording this webinar so that we can put it on our website and others who want to enter the competition can see it. So if you don't want your face to be seen, you don't have to have your camera on. And the other thing is there will be an opportunity later on for you to make comments or to put questions. And if you want to do that, can you use the chat, please? Now, before we get to the competition, let me just say a word about the Magna Carta Universitatum. The short history is that in the 1980s, there were concerns, principally in Europe, about governments making inroads to the autonomy which universities enjoyed, and issues with academic freedom. And a group of people from what was the forerunner of the European University Association and the University of Bologna got together and created this very short statement of fundamental principles of higher education. And in 1988, when the University of Bologna was 900 years old, they had, if you like, a party with a purpose. And the purpose was for these universities from around the world to come to stand together and to sign this statement. And that statement lasted as it was until 2020, when the feeling was a number of things had changed and that we should review the statement, which we did. Now, all of what was agreed in 1988 still stands, but there were additional things added to the Magna Carta to speak principally about the responsibility of universities to society. And I'm just going to read 5 short sections which will put the competition in context before I ask Peter to say a word about why students are so important to the Magna Carta and how we seek to involve them. What the Magna Carta says is universities acknowledge that they have a responsibility to engage with and respond to the aspirations and challenges of the world and the communities which they serve, to benefit humanity and contribute to sustainability. So that's the big picture. Coming closer to the competition and its themes, universities have a civic role and responsibility. They are part of global collegial networks of scientific inquiry and scholarship, building on shared bodies of knowledge and contributing to their further development. They are also embedded in local cultures and crucially relevant to their future and enrichment. Universities are non-discriminatory spaces of tolerance and respect, where diversities of perspectives flourish, and where inclusivity, anchored in principles of equity and fairness, prevails. They therefore commit themselves to advance equity and fairness in all aspects of academic life, including admissions, hiring, and promotion practices. Penultimately, education is a human right, a public good, and should be available to all. Universities recognize that learning is a lifelong activity, with tertiary education as one part of a continuum. Within that part, universities serve diverse learners at all stages of their lives. And finally, universities acknowledge that individuals and communities, often due to inequitable circumstances, have difficulty gaining access to higher education or influencing the modes and matter of academic study. To realize human potential everywhere, universities deliberately seek ways to welcome and engage with diverse voices and perspectives. So that, if you like, is what guides us. Students are a vital part of that, of the communities of universities, and in the life of Magna Carta Observatory. Peter is one of two student representatives who serve on our governing council. And now, Peter, would you like to say a little bit more about how we engage with students and why it matters?
All right. Thank you very much, David. And thank you for the generous introduction earlier. So I think that you've set us on a course, and I just want to contribute from there. And I think that basically mine is to also welcome everyone from where you are. And we're so happy to see a very diverse group of students and young people joining us from all over the world. So welcome everyone. It's more inspiring to see our diversity displayed on this webinar. Um, I'll start by also joining David in saying that for the MCO starting from 1988, when you look at the Universitatum, I think that it recognizes where students sit. In that we're not just one strand of a stakeholder in the university, but that we're its heart and the soul. And I mean, from when the crafters of the Universitatum put that together, the MCO in its activities, in the way that it has worked, has sought to embody that and to operationalize it in such a way that forms leading by example. The MCO, for example, allows two students, of which I'm one, to serve on its governing council, which is the highest body that makes decisions for it. So it tells you just how much the MCO values the input of students. And by leading by example, they encourage universities to equally do same and to welcome student voices wherever they matter. But why is it important? For us as MCO, it's not just a checklist or something that we need to do just as a symbol of tokenism, but there's a genuine commitment to ensure that students are involved in everything that the MCO does. So ranging from the living values program that it operationalizes and other things that are done. But I think that more recently, if you look at what the MCO is doing in terms of setting a strategic focus for future generations, it is seeking to emphasize that the future of higher education literally lies with us. And it is for us that the future embodiment as scholars, as thinkers, as leaders lie. So it's important to not wait until we become that, but begin to engage us now. In this sense, engaging students is seen by the MCU not only as being vital, but of course being a strategic imperative, and also ensuring that we are prepping students to be able to safeguard the fundamental university values as they are enshrined in the Magna Carta and Universitatum. And if you look at it from the perspective of being a young person, I mean, or whatever is happening in the world, you are concerned, you are alarmed. To what extent are democratic values being eroded? To what extent is university autonomy being eroded? And what roles can we just play beyond being a spectator? And that's where the MCO feels that your voices, our voices matter. So if you look at this being the third edition of the essay competition, we've come a long way in letting students contribute to the ways in which university can engage their societies. In what ways are we able to bring the sort of training that we're receiving in the universities to serve our communities? And so if academic freedom, the contributions to a free world mean anything, and if it's to endure and thrive, then obviously we must ensure that students are properly equipped to contribute to something like that. And talking about the editions from 2023 until now, year in, year out, we've sought to engage students in a broader way, more than just having us on a council, such that students globally from wherever they are have had opportunity to also share their perspectives, share their voices, and have them forwarded to rectors, university professors, look at them and then pick them and utilize them in ways that are practical in decision making. In that sense, our voices have been just amplified and also been given the sort of opportunity to be implemented in universities and other places that where otherwise would not have had the opportunity to do so. But of course, I mean, in today, there are various big questions that we have to answer. And I think that for the large part of what all of us see in the world that we have today, the questions of if our democracy would survive at all, the questions about to what extent would university autonomy survive, will we be free to think? Because obviously everything starts from somewhere. And if we don't safeguard that today, tomorrow we will not have one to safeguard at all. And obviously, if we're able to build a society that is free and inclusive. So these have been diverse conversations that the MCU has been bringing out year in, year out for students, for all of us to be able to contribute to. And so this year is no different from what we've done every other year, but largely feeding into the real issues of what universities can do to bring real change in the societies that they belong to. So I would conclude by saying that the MCU is trusting us, and that's why they give us a voice. And I think that they are trusting this generation to be very different, to do something very new. And I'm just hoping that all of us would be able to let that count for something and rise to the occasion. So on that note, I would turn back to David for us to go into the details of the essay competition for 2025. So David, I'll hand over back to you.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. Peter tells the story very succinctly. I'll just add that the two student representatives on the Magna Carta's governing council are equal members to everybody else. So if somebody's been a university rector for 30 years and all the rest of it, they sit there as the equal of Peter and Martina, who are the two student representatives. And also it was Martina who works with us on this essay competition as well. Traditionally, the Magna Carta has organised events with a target audience of rectors and maybe vice rectors in mind. But as a council, we're always challenging ourselves. And over the years, we've built up from having student-led sessions in our conferences and so on. And by the way, I should tell you that students are allowed to attend our conferences free of charge. We can't help you with travel or accommodation, but we don't charge you a fee. So I'll mention at the end our annual event for 2025, and that may be of interest. So challenging ourselves, how can we involve students more? Some students do come to the annual events and they make a great contribution. But about 3 years ago, somebody said, well, what about the idea of having an essay competition so that the voice of students can be heard much more? And as usual with these things, there was much sort of scratching of heads. Will it work? Won't it work? So we tried it. And at the end of that competition, 98 students from 28 different countries had entered. Incredible standard of essays, and the 5 winners came to join us in Łódź, Poland, for our anniversary. That, I think, cemented the essay competition as part of the Magna Carta offering. And last year, it was 144 students from 45 different countries who entered the competition. And the winners, I'll say 3 of the winners, two of the winners have still to have their prize. 3 of the winners came to Oxford, not to a Magna Carta conference, but to the launch of the World Access to Higher Education Network. And that network and some of the sponsors of it had jointly resourced the competition. So that seemed the right thing to do. And one of the 3 winners who came to Oxford was Helena. And so Helena, can you introduce yourself very briefly to people on the call? Perhaps say a little bit about what you're studying and your university.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Elina, as David said. I'm a Brazilian student of psychology, and I'm 24 years old. So I went to Oxford, as David said, last year because I won of the 5 winners of MCO essay competition 2024. And I'm so happy to be here because this webinar was very important for me last year because last year I was watching this to be prepared to write my essay, and now I'm here as a speaker. So it's very special for me, and it's crazy because it is still feels unbelievable because this competition is a unique competition because they gave us an opportunity to reflect on our environment, think about how could we improve it, and then being recognized for that effort was amazing. It's amazing. So it's one thing to write with a fixed topic and rules, and another to express your own ideas and I freely. Yeah, and I think the second is harder, but much more meaningful, and that is what this competition is about. So you have to put your ideas and yourself in your essay, and you have a chance to be prized for that, for your perspective and your singularity. So it's amazing, and it inspires me in the last year.
Can you say a little bit about your essay? Firstly, what inspired you to enter the competition? And secondly, about the essay itself. I should say to friends present on the call that Helena had, along with the other winners, present her essay to a very high-powered meeting, including World Bank and UNESCO people and so on, and impressed them greatly. So what inspired you? And just give us the headlines.
Yeah, what inspires me? So I was studying bell hooks and Paulo Freire in my college, in my university. So I had this background and I saw this competition, and this was a huge opportunity for me for write with my perspective and my ideas, and think about that in a different space, in an international space, and know other people that was concerned about the education problems. So my text had a simple thesis, and it is, I believe participation in higher education is a form of inclusion. So I choose just this topic because if a student enters the university but doesn't have freedom and courage to express himself or herself and be active in the learning process, then he or she is not there, is not there. And this is the main point of my text, my essay. So with this in mind, I truly believe that encouraging participation helps strengthen the connection between students and professors, and it creates more opportunities for students from different experience, as related to income, location, race, sexuality, or gender, and express yourself and be more included by this process. So I saw in my university, in my country, that we have policy, public policy to improve the access to higher education as quota system. We have. I'm a quota student, as we call it, but the participation in class is difficult. Is still difficult. So I would like to write about that and think about that to improve my environment, improve this participation, because I believe this is how can I say, this is a way to get more connect, to get more access in higher education. So then I decided to write about participation for the MCO competition, essay competition, because I believe this must be a central point in any community that wants future generations to be more engaged with society and their relationships. And I usually say that is not just the professor's job to create a safe and productive environment. We all influence each other, included our professors. So this calls me. And finally, here's some advice for the candidates, because this is important. Put your genuine thoughts on the table, your perspective, your humanity, and your passion, because this is the recipe for the success in this competition. The judges want to see the real you. I was very concerned about that, about my way to write, my thoughts and my reality. If I could put this in my essay, and this is allowed it. So please do that. So go ahead, David.
That's all right. Thank you for sharing that. And I see one or two reactions on the screen, which is great, because the board of the World Access to Higher Education Network were so impressed by Helena's contribution that when it came to the launch conference the following day, they didn't just open the question session. The chairman actually invited the students to the first questions, which was wonderful for me, because it just gave evidence that the voice of students does need to be heard. Now, lastly, before we move on to this year's competition, when we were thinking about what prize would be appropriate for the essay competition, we wanted something that would be beneficial for the careers of students, whether they chose to stay in academia or not. And we lighted on the idea that it should be travel to a relevant international conference, so that it would give the winners both greater exposure to the subject and also greater exposure to the people who are at the top of organizations making things happen and so on. And the dice rolled last year that Helena and two other winners were invited to Oxford in December. Helena, tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it was an incredible prize. My experience last year was unforgettable. I don't have words to express my gratitude, not just because being for being in another country, because this is an amazing, it's amazing, but I was in an amazing schedule of events. And, but also I met people, brilliant people, and this is the best part of these experiences. This experience, they were incredible, and I miss them all the time. I made friends, and it's difficult because we are far away now. So as part of my prize, as David says, I got to participate in the launch of WAHN in Oxford, which is already amazing. But since it was my first time traveling abroad, I decided to visit London first. It was also my first solo trip, so of course I was nervous and worried about everything. But then I met David, the team, and the other winners, and immediately I felt safe. They were so kind, and I was very worried about my language, my speaking. So they were so kind, and I knew I was in the right place to share my thoughts and learn from others. I met brilliant people from the world, from different universities, and all with the same goal to improve the higher education environment and start movements and learn from on another. It was magical, and for the first time I realized that I was surrounded by people who shared the same passion and concerns about education that I have. So that was the best part, the sense of belonging that I I got there. So it was very special, was the best prize. And I realized not only Brazil have problems, but other countries that have different problems. So this was important thing to realize.
Well, thank you very much indeed for sharing that. And colleagues on the call may want to ask you some more questions about that later on. But let's move to this year's competition, this year's prize. I'll introduce the judges, and I'll share one or two things which I describe as accumulated experience, which may guide people thinking about entering this year's competition. Now, the title of the essay this year is Drawing on Your Own Experience, How Might Your University Engage More Effectively with Stakeholders, both to improve access to higher education for all and enhance the learning experience of students? So it's a fairly broad question, but that reflects the fairly broad and very different nature of higher education in different parts of the world. By the way, let me tell you that all of what I'm going to say now will be on the Magna Carta website tomorrow morning, when you can refer to it in full. Now, what do we mean by stakeholders? Well, we mean groups or organizations with a vested interest or stake in the decision-making activities and outputs of the university. It might be alumni, it might be employers in the region, it might be professional bodies, community bodies, and other groups. So that's the title. I'll say a bit more in a minute about approaches that you might like to take. Now, there will be up to 5 prizes. I hope it will be 5, but that's not quite confirmed at the minute, but up to 5 prizes for winners to present their essays and participate in discussions with an international audience. And there are two options this year. One is at the World Access to Higher Education Network conference, scheduled for the 27th to the 29th of October at the University of Western Cape in South Africa, or the Magna Carta's own anniversary conference, which will be at King's College London from the 11th to the 13th of November 2025. The prizes will consist of expenses, that's travel and hotel and accommodation costs for the winners. And we will discuss with each of the winners what works for them with regard to which prize they go for. Now, in thinking about the essay, it's up to you, but we think you may want to focus on one or more of these. Making access to education opportunities, resources, facilities more equitable and fairer in line with human rights and responsibilities. Or what could enhance participation in and or successful completion of your courses, programs, or through more inclusive, diverse learning environments. And the sort of things that we're thinking about there are ways in which universities engage with their communities, placements, the extent to which the communities come into universities, and so on. And in both of those, how students can help to work towards the ultimate aim of human rights, which is to establish justice, unity, and peace. Now, one or two of the details. Essays must be submitted in the English language. They must not be longer than 1,000 words. One of the most difficult things I have to do each year is to try and guess how many entries we might receive so that each of the judges has a manageable task in front of them. So if it's more than 1,000 words, I'm sorry, it will not be included. Now, because we in fact have a bigger judging panel this year, it's 9 people. I'll tell you about them in a minute. We have to have a very rigid marking scheme. We do statistical checks on the marks to make sure that of fairness, but there are 4 criteria, and the judges give each of them a proportion of the marks. The first is relevance to the theme. Secondly, awareness of the factors involved as shown through the students' essays. The uniqueness of their approach. And we're looking for the potential impact for the university and beyond. And what we want to do is to make the essays available, not just the winners, but the essays available to all of those who use the Magna Carta's website, so that the competition can have impact beyond just the essay competition. All right. And the way we do it, because it's a large number of essays, each essay will go randomly to 2 judges who will mark it independently and then we will run the statistics on that. And then the highest group of essays will be considered by the full judging panel. So let me tell you about the judging panel. This year it's 9 people, not 5 people. We will list them on the website tomorrow. But new this year, the global lead for tertiary education from the World Bank, Roberta Malley-Bassett. Roberta was one of the people who heard Helena present her essay last year and came forward afterwards to say that she would be very happy to be involved in this. And so we welcome her as a judge. Atakri Dinesh, CEO of the Africa College Foundation, was a judge last year and again this year. Emma Harden-Wolfson, now an assistant professor at McGill University, Canada, but formerly she was the Right to Higher Education lead at UNESCO, and she too heard Helena and her colleagues last year and wanted to join us. Peter, who spoke to you earlier on, is one of the judges, as is one of the other winners from last year. Ignacy is a student from Poland and attended Oxford with the group of us and was very happy to be a judge for this year. One of the Magna Carta Observatory ambassadors, Professor Caroline Parker, a lady who was very much involved in our living values work, she came to Oxford and joined in this occasion, and this year she is one of our judges. Professor June Pim of the Saville Foundation from South Africa. Dr. Nidhi Sadana, Associate Professor of the National University of Educational Planning and Administration of India, has not been a judge before, but we welcome having a judge from that part of the world. And finally, Professor Catherine Stimpson, a member of the Magna Carta Observatory Council and formerly Professor and Dean in New York University. So you'll see we have a broadly geographical spread among the judges. We have students, we have professors, and we have people working in global apex bodies. They are the judges. Now, just one or two more very, very precise things. You're only allowed to enter once. You cannot submit more than one essay. Entrants must be registered as a student at a university of higher education anywhere in the world. They must not put their name or their institution's name in their essay or the file name for that, because we want to judge it on a completely blind basis. So it's the quality of the essay and the ideas which comes through, not a particular country or a particular university. The essays have to be all your work, right? You can quote from other works, but as is normal in academia, you must acknowledge those quotes. And you must not use generative AI. All right. And we do run checks on it. And if an essay is found to have a high possibility that generative AI has been involved, it is not considered further. Now, it may be that the judges, and judging the competition in both years has been pretty tough, with quite long discussions, and indeed another round of discussions in 1 year. It may be that the judges actually want to talk to the author of one or more of essays, and so that may happen before we announce the event, the winners. Tomorrow morning, they will be posted on the Magna Carta website, a link. And when you go to that link, you will have the opportunity to put your name in. You will there be able to see the Magna Carta in full. You will be able to see a full version of the rules, which I have read from this afternoon. And there will be instructions there about how to submit your essays. The closing date for submitting your essays is the 13th of July. There is no summer holiday for the judges because they will review them over the summer, and we have a timetable in place which will enable the results to be announced on the 5th of September. So there you have it, the details of the competition this year. I don't see any questions in the chat, but in case you have questions, let me just turn to Peter and to Helena and just say, is there anything we've missed out? Is there anything more that could usefully have been said, or have you any final comments?
All right. Thank you very much, David, for sharing all the expectations about the upcoming competition. And just to also add that we've been excited over the years, or the last 2 editions, to read very wonderful essays, and hopefully we get to read other round of very impactful essays. And so we're looking forward to all the beautiful essays you would write. We're looking forward to exciting ideas from you, and we're inviting you to, as much as you can, share widely with your colleagues all over, just so that everybody has a chance to enter the competition. And as David has already said, and the MCO reflect the ideals that we give students, including all of us, the opportunities to not just meet people, but to have your ideas have the chance to be implemented. And so take this as your opportunity to change the world. And so when we say that we're changing the world, it starts with very little things like this. And so a rector, a president somewhere might pick your idea and say that it's wonderful, I want to implement it in my university. And so you will not know where your idea or your essay might end up being impactful. And so it's just to add up and say that give it a shot. And let's really hope that something beautiful comes out of this. So thank you very much. And I'll join David maybe later in saying that we thank you all for joining, and thank you for listening. And we're looking forward to your submission. So Helena, if you do have anything more to say, and just also to thank you very much for everything that you've shared.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, David, too. It's a significant opportunity to be here today, and this process is very difficult and hard because we have to reflect about our environment, our situations, our problems, and how we solve them. So it's a very difficult exercise, but it's very important. and it's very how can I say, magical, significant. And please do that. Enjoy this journey and the writing journey, because this is important too. And put your style in your text. This is the main part. And how can I say, don't be afraid to put your style in this essay. And deep concerns about your environment, they want to see that thing. So thank you again, and good luck, everyone.
Well, thank you. While you've been speaking, a question has appeared, and it says, with regard to not naming your university, can you refer to the town or city your university is in for the theme? The answer is, if it's necessary to do that, yes. What we didn't want is a situation where the judges see that somebody from this university is taking part and so on. And judges are all human. There are perceptions of universities and so on. We wanted the judges genuinely to read the words in front of them and to judge those words qualitatively without any preconception at all. But if the situation you're describing is helped by naming the town or the country that it's in, then do by all means name it. So let me just conclude by saying you are joining us on a journey from initially just having a couple of students on our governing council. We, as at Magna Carta, have moved to a partnership, particularly with the Global Student Forum, which Peter works with, and before that with the European Student Union. And this competition is genuinely a partnership between those student bodies and the Magna Carta Observatory. We have now signed a memorandum of understanding with the Global Student Forum. We're going to be talking with them about ways in which Magna Carta can make a greater input into introducing fundamental values to students, to student leaders, and to people who will be the future leaders of universities. With your voice coming through these essay competitions, we see students having greater influence in the world. And I think that's a really strong situation. So I really welcome you on this journey with us. I hope that you will submit an essay. Please tell your friends about it. Please use social media. And well, I look forward to having the opportunity to meet 5 of you in either South Africa or London, and congratulate you in person on winning the competition in 2025. So, Helena, Peter, thank you so much for all that you've done and will continue to do. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing the essays. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.